Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the 7hz Legato, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Linsoul Audio for providing the 7hz Legato for review. Do greatly appreciate it. Linsoul Audio, you rock. Alright, so the 7hz Legato, this will set you back $110 from your bank account, and it has a dual dynamic driver configuration. 12 millimeters for the bass and 6 millimeters for the mids and treble. It does use DLC composite diaphragms. 26 ohms of impedance, 108 decibels of sensitivity, and a frequency response range of 10 Hz to 20 kHz. The Legato comes in this very simple box, just the way I like it. You get some pictures, a little bit of branding, and the name of the device, some specs on the back. You're done with the box. You get a carrying case that has a red color to it and gold logos and branding, which I like. It says Legato here on the bottom. Very nice carrying case, nice zipper. You get a bed to put your IEMs in, and then a pocket for some accessories. It's a little bit big, not really pocketable, but it'll fit in a bag very nicely. And it for sure will protect your IEMs. Some accessories that you get. 7hz includes a replacement filter and some screens. And then you get two sets of tips. You get a clear set, which is more wide bore. And then you get a blue set, which is a little bit more narrow. I used the wide bore clear set. I found that the tips did definitely make a difference. The wide bore ones kind of tamed the bass just a little bit and gave a little bit more energy, a little bit more air and sparkle to the mids and treble, and they weren't as recessed to the bass. The blue tips, which are the narrow bore, really brought forth the bass and gave you a lot more impact and slam. It made things sound a little bit more V-shaped, and the mids were definitely more recessed with the blue tip. The Legato, I like these. The build of them is kind of cool. All metal design. You got a fairly chunky little body here and a longer nozzle. Kind of heavy. You got some venting here on the back. A little bit of flat body. And taking the tip off, you can see the nozzle there. Body's not super huge though, so it should fit in most ears. The longer nozzle may cause some issues. It does connect with a 2-pin, even though it does look like it should be a MMCX, and it's a little bit hard to get undone. It's and nice that it stays really connected. When you get your 2-pin connected here, it stays connected. And it's not going anywhere. It's not going to pull out. It's a tight fit. The cable is nice. You got a decent ear hook here with tension. And then it goes to a nice split with a cinch that actually works. And then it terminates into a 3.5 with the same type of material for the casing of the split and of the termination as the shells. You get this nice big cable management wrap, which is branded with 7hz and it says Legato. You're not going to forget what cable this is for. It's saying Legato on it. Overall, I like the build of the Legato. It looks nice. It feels nice. It feels solid. It is a little bit on the chunky side, but I find that as it goes in the ear, because of the smaller shape and that longer nozzle, it doesn't really affect my ears too much. I can definitely tell that I have an IEM in there, but it's not like super bulky and big. Weight does pull down just a little bit, but not too much. I can wear these for about 90 minutes to 2 hours or so before they start to become uncomfortable. Take about a 5 to 10 minute break. I can pop them back in with no problem listening for another 90 minutes to 2 hours. Isolation of outside noises is fairly decent. Probably somewhere around 60% or so of outside noises is blocked. It'd be okay for around the house, around the neighborhood, and at the office. But if you're in louder environments, probably won't do as well. The 7hz Legato is fairly easy to drive, being 26 ohms, 108 decibels sensitivity. I found that most dongles were able to power them. It is a little bit picky on what type of source it is. If it's a warmer source, they're going to struggle. They're going to be a little bit bloated, a little bit thick in the bass, and have a little bit too much warmth. So I found that sources that are a little bit more neutral sounding, a little bit more natural sounding, were better paired with the Legato. I preferred it with the Hibby FC3, the Audio Engine DAC 3, and the Tantrum Space. The Heidi's XO were some of the dongles that I preferred it with. DAPs were very nice with the Hibby R5 Gen 2, and also the Sony A105 and the Sony WM1A. Desktop played very well on the Audiophile Deckard and the Mytek Liberty DAC 2, and also amplifiers of the Mytek HPA and the Headamp GSX Mini. So I found that it was fairly easy to drive. Did sound better with more power. It kind of brought out a little bit more dynamics, and a little bit more just overall presentation was just a little more pleasing. So it scales with better gear and also with a little bit more power. Before we get into the overall sonic impressions of the 7hz Legato, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. It's much appreciated. I know that these times in the world are not easy, and that there are a lot of sacrifices that have to be made to give to a YouTube channel like the Honest Audiophile. So it is much appreciated knowing that it is a sacrifice and that you want to see the channel further grow and to continue. So thank you very much for all that you give to the channel. It's much appreciated. If you're interested in giving to the channel, please check out the links down below. There's all kinds of ways that you can give through YouTube memberships and also Patreon. Also, you can give one-time gifts through PayPal and Venmo. If you're interested in giving that, check out the links down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. That way you'll know when the next video from the Honest Audiophile is uploaded. All right, so how do the 7hz Legato sound? Well, first of all, what is the definition of the word legato? Legato means tied together. And in a musical performance and notations, it indicates that a musical note is to be played or sung smoothly and connected. That is, that the player or the performer makes a transition from note to note with no intervening silence. So does the 7hz Legato have a smooth transition from note to note? Yeah, they do. They're very smooth sounding and very musical. So let's start with the bass. The bass of the 7hz Legato is craziness. You like bass? You're going to get a lot of bass. So the bass of Legato is very dominant, very prominent, very authoritative, and extremely, extremely energetic. Lots of sub bass. You're going to get a lot of rumble, a lot of grumble, a lot of it's really going to get down there. It's going to reach deep, and it's very impactful, and you can really feel the bass of the 7hz Legato. This is a killer bass. It reminds me of an old school subwoofer type of sound. It is got this just power to it and just this engagement and just this, you're really going to feel it type of bass. Mid bass, there's a lot of that too. You're going to get a lot of punch, a lot of slam, a lot of kick. And overall, the bass is just going to be very energetic and very just forthright. Upper bass, yep, that's their dude. And it's just very engaging, and it's a fun bass, has nice tone, good timbre to things, decently detailed, fairly good resolving, and it stays controlled for the most part. Can get a little too energetic and a little sloppy at times, and it definitely is not a reference bass, but it's very engaging and very fun sounding. The mids of the Legato are a little bit on the recessed side. They're a little bit behind the bass, and the bass definitely is the star of the show, but the mids, they may play second fiddle, but they are still very good. They have a nice personality to them. They present themselves in a way that is engaging and just very much, I'm here to do what I need to do, vocals and instruments, and I'm going to sound good while doing it, and I'm going to look good too. You know, it's the mids go right along with the bass. They play nicely. They transition well from the bass to the mids. There is a little bit of a bleed from the upper bass to the lower mids. It gives a fullness and a body to it. And the mids are just engaging. They aren't the most airy. They aren't the most spacious, but you get this fullness about them and this body, and they're just lush and smooth. And they just have a pleasantness about the mids. Nice tone, nice timbre, good enough details and resolution. And overall, it just sounds fun. Now, is it the most natural or the most accurate? No, but it's not off-putting in any way. It's a very, very nicely done mid. The treble. The treble is laid back. It's mellow. It kind of fits in with the mids. They're there to complement the bass and to keep the music flowing and to keep it enough engaging and not to take the spotlight away from the bass, but to complement it. The treble is slightly rolled off. It doesn't have a whole lot of air, a whole lot of sparkle, sizzle, and energy, but it's not boring in any way either. It just plays along and just keeps the toes tapping and keeps it energetic enough without being fatiguing. Overall, the bass, the mids, and the treble just kind of play together in a very smooth, cohesive, and just engaging, fun sound. It's not a reference sound, and it definitely is not going to be something that you would use as a reference or as a monitor on stage, but it's just a very pleasing and fun sound signature. Soundstage. Soundstage of the Legato is average at best when it comes to width. It's not anything spectacular, and it's not going to sound cramped. It's not going to sound crowded, but it's not going to wow you with its width. Depth-wise, it does a pretty good job. Layering is all right, and it's going to give you what you need in a soundstage without being this mind-blowing experience. But you're not going to sound like you're not going to get the sound that you're cramped or crowded. Imaging, it struggles a little bit. Things flow across the stage, but they're kind of jittering as they go. There's occasional skips along the way, and it's not the easiest to track things, but they're not the hardest. It's just not the best at imaging that it could be at its price point. Detail, retrieval, and resolution are pretty good. It's not, again, this is not a reference sound, and it's not going to, you're not going to miss anything, but you're not really going to hear things that you've never heard before. And resolution, it does a good enough job of what details are presented. Tone and timbre, it's not the most natural sounding IEM out there, but it's not off-putting, and you can tell differences between instruments, and you'll know whether or not something is a brass or a woodwind or a string. And it's easy enough to be able to tell what it is, but does it sound the most realistic? Probably not. Overall, I like the Legato. It's a fun and engaging sound, and it does things that other IEMs in this price point don't do, and it just does it in a unique presentation. How does it compare to a couple other IEMs in this price point? Well, first up, you have the TRI Meteor. Now, the TRI Meteor is also a bassy IEM, but it does not have near the bass that the Legato has. And it is a little bit more detailed than the Legato, and it has a little bit more air, a little bit more space, and it has a little bit more sparkle and energy. The mids are a little bit more forward, aren't as recessed as they are in the Legato, and the soundstage is a little bit wider, and it does a little bit better with imaging. but it just doesn't have that bass impact and that slam and that punch and that fun factor like the Legato. And then we have the CTM CE110. Now the CTM CE110 is a studio monitor for drummers and bassists. And so it does the bass a little bit better. It's more refined, better defined, better detailed, and better resolving. And it hits home, and it just sounds a little bit more accurate and true. And the mids are a little bit better presented, have a little bit more air and a little bit more space. And it has better tone and timbre, a little bit better detailed and resolving, but it lacks that fun and engagement that the Legato has. Soundstage wise, it's not as wide, but it has a little bit better depth and a little bit better layering, and it does a little bit better with imaging. Overall, I find that the Legato is just different in the way it approaches sound and presentation, and it's just a fun listen. If you really listen to a lot of genres like metal, hard rock, EDM, dance, pop, things that have a lot of hard-hitting electronic bass, and things that have a lot of just fun, deep, powerful bass movement, then you will enjoy the Legato. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of the next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support channel, all that kind of stuff is listed down below. And then lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.